All right, welcome everyone to our Oneida Community Mansion House Phase 2 webinar, where we'll learn all about what's going on in our next major phase of historic preservation at OCMH, as well as some more information about our ongoing historic preservation campaign, where we are aiming to raise $100,000 during the month of May, which is National Historic Preservation Month. My name is Tom Guiler. I'm the Director of Museum Affairs at the Mansion House. And I'm joined here by an all-star panel of experts here, including Mike Colmey, our Director of Buildings and Grounds, Jamie Trevvett, an architect and OCMH board member, and Carolyn Strobel-Larsen, who has the rare title of both a board member of the Mansion House as well as the Kenwood Benevolent Society. So thank you all so much for being here, taking some time during your late afternoon to hear what we're up to. Just some few housekeeping things before we get started. First, this is a Zoom webinar as opposed to a meeting, which means that presenters will be visible and attendees are muted and off screen. So feel free to continue to prepare dinner, do your laundry, whatever you need to do. Attendees can utilize the Q&A button that is down below. You can also use the chat feature as well. I will be monitoring that and answering any technical questions that do come up about connectivity or the webinar itself. But we will be saving all questions for after the presentations tonight. We'll have plenty of time for that. We also have a closed caption option that's at the bottom of your screen if you'd rather read than listen to this presentation. Just some brief outline is that I'm going to give a little bit of a history of the Mansion House, specifically about the building and how it evolved to what we know today as the 93,000 square foot National Historic Landmark. Mike's going to get, as well as Jamie, are going to go next. They're going to give a little more technical with the actual projects, the nuts and bolts that will be going on in 2026 and beyond here at the Mansion House. And then Carolyn's going to bring us home to talk about the impact of every donation that happens here at the Mansion House during the month of May, more about our campaign and the ways that you can be involved and that you can help the projects that we're talking about come to fruition and the history to keep that alive for future generations. So again, thank you for being here. This webinar will be recorded and we're going to pop it up on YouTube probably in the next day or two afterwards. So if you do want to relive the moment or share with your friends, we certainly would be appreciative of that. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and just give me a little bit of patience here as I get everything going. All right. Spot like this. No. And I'm on the spotlight. Thank you very much for your patience. So as many of you know, this May we are raising money as a historic campaign to raise $100,000, which will be matched by the Kenwood Benevolent Society. And we're specifically raising funds this May for historic preservation efforts and capital projects that will sustain the Mansion House, the largest and the most important object in the collection for decades and decades to come. You're welcome to donate by hitting the QR code here or at oneidacommunity.org. There's a lovely banner at the top that can take you to our donation page. But a lot of people have been wondering, it's great you're raising money. It's great capital campaign. It's lovely preservation month stuff. But what is in phase two? What does that entail? What are we up to at the Mansion House? What's coming up in 2026 and beyond? And that's why we're here today. So it could lift off the veil and you guys be some of the first to hear what will happen in phase two. For those of you who may be not familiar with the Mansion House, or it's been a while, the Mansion House is really three main things today, and that's one is a National Historic Landmark and museum that celebrates and preserves the story of the Oneida community and its legacy company, Oneida Limited, for future generations, in order that they be inspired to tackle pressing social issues or imagine a better world today. We were also a historic inn with 14 overnight guest rooms and lots of spaces for events ranging from corporate events to weddings to private parties. And finally, and really very importantly, is that the Mansion House is still a residence, and we're very proud to have called ourselves a residence for over 160 years. There really aren't many museums or historic sites in the country that can boast that we've been fulfilling our purpose, the purpose it was originally built for, to be a residence. And the United Community and the Mansion House itself remain a vital part of American history and would not exist without the religious liberties of religious liberty, the right to peaceful protests and assembly, and an example of really what Americans can do when they band together to form a whole new world. And the Oneida community history is really American history. Would not exist without those rights and privileges that the founding fathers and mothers bestowed on the country. But it's also sort of a piece of the fabric of American history, people banding together to do something new. But places like the Mansion House are rare examples of the power of place to make history come alive. When you visit, you can sit in the big hall where the Oneida community gather each night. You can explore the rooms where children once played, and you can gather in the spaces where Oneida Limited employees built the largest silverware company in the world. And above all, you can be inspired by the iconic, communally designed architecture that housed and incubated these radical ideas. The Mansion House is of critical national importance, and it's important to save for a number of reasons. As I noted, it's an essential part of American history. There's few textbooks out there that don't at least mention the Oneida community as the quintessential example of antebellum reform movements and Second Great Awakening religious fervor. And that's something we really want to celebrate this year, especially in 2026 when we are celebrating the United States semi-quincentennial, which is a big word to mean America 250, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the country. It's also one of the most important structures in American communal studies history. It's a mecca for people who study communal groups, both past and present. And it's the structure that many people think of when they think about a utopian community. It's also the manifestation of the community. It shows the power of what people can do when they come together to do something in common, when they band together and set their minds, bodies, and money to something. It's also the idea of utopia embodied. The United Community were known as perfectionists, and they built what they thought was heaven on earth. And it was a manifestation of that. Their utopia, the Mansion House and all the grounds around it, was their manifestation of living heaven on earth. It's also the keeper of the Oneida community story, but also the Oneida Limited story. Mansion House is a treasure that preserves, interprets, and tells the stories of those first perfectionists, those 300 men, women, and children, but also the employees, families, and those associated with Oneida Limited. And we tell those stories for audiences today to be inspired by the power of community to imagine a better world. Now, when we talk often throughout May, but throughout the year, we talk about historic preservation as it's always front of mind because the Mansion House being the biggest, most important collection item we have, right? This is where all the stories emanate from, these 93,000 square feet. But most folks may not know exactly what historic preservation is. We talk about it, but really, what is it? And really, preservation is the physical manifestation, care, and repair of significant historic buildings like the Mansion House. It includes protecting and taking care of our roofs, walls, heating, cooling, and water systems, porches, historic interiors, landscapes, and keeping the collections it houses safe. Preservation is a team sport, though. It involves staff, contractors, architects, and most importantly, the help of private, government, and individual supporters like you to make it all happen. The overall goal of these historic preservation efforts is to save and care for the Mansion House so the building can stand as a testament to and tell the stories of the people who lived, worked, and played here, allowing for future generations the ability to experience community just as many generations did and will into the future. So, for those who may have be rusty on your OC history, the Oneida community was led by John Humphrey Noyes, who was born in Vermont in 1811, educated at Yale and Dartmouth, and then was caught up in the Second Great Awakening. He ends up founding a community in Vermont, and then is sort of run out of town due to the radical beliefs and chased here to central New York. They practice a number of unique and radical beliefs, including sharing all things in common, something they call Bible communism. They practice complex marriage, where all men and women were married to one another. They practiced a radical kind of governance called mutual criticism, where people could be called out for their shortcomings. And finally, they raised all children in common as one gigantic family and one gigantic house. This was all supported by the trap business, a silk thread business, a canning business, and eventually a silverware concern that generated immense wealth and made the mansion house possible. In many ways, the mansion house was communally designed by each person who lived in the community to be a kind of machine for living, where the ideals of the mansion, of the community, were reflected and reinforced through that communal architecture. They also believed, more importantly, that the outer life, sort of your presentation to the outside world, was a reflection of your inner life, your spirituality. And that was taken on an individual level, as you see here with the folks that are finely dressed. If people saw the Oneida community, they would say, wow, they're very well dressed. They comport themselves very well. These must be very holy people. Likewise, they designed the mansion house with the same principle in mind. They built it in the latest architectural styles. They built it really well and sturdy to last through the ages because they wanted people to know when they saw the mansion house that the people who lived in it, the people that built it, were also equally as holy, spiritual, and well-meaning. The mansion house, however, was built in stages. It was not sort of taken as maybe we think of houses like Biltmore or the other Gilded Age mansions in Newport. It was built in sections over nearly 30, 40, or 50 years, depending on how you want to do it. So I'll take you through those stages quickly, just to show you how much the mansion house has grown, evolved, and changed, and will continue that way as we do historic preservation efforts. In 1848, soon after the perfectionists arrived from Vermont, they built what was known as the first mansion house, which was a fairly simple wooden structure. It was 3 stories tall and done in a more vernacular kind of architecture, which means the prevailing building styles of the area at the time. It was designed in part by Erastus Hamilton. We're going to talk more about him later, but it was all contributed to the design by the community. It was also a quick construction. It was begun in March 1st of 1848 and completed by the winter. It was done with all community members pitching in, with the exception of one outsider named Ruggles. We're not quite sure who he was. However, it was important that the entire community was involved in not only laying foundations, but doing plaster, all kinds of different things. And that was done by men and women equally. They also built at the same time, inside the mansion house there, dining rooms, parlors, a reception room, school rooms, a printing office, and bedrooms for the now 100 people that called the mansion house home. A couple years later, they built what's known as the Children's House, the first Children's House, next door to the community. And this is where the community raised its children in common. Think of this as a sort of mini community for the children where they were raised and they were schooled. Their numbers, however, after the 1850s grew very quickly, and they continually added this to the structure 4 times in the 1850s in order to accommodate their numbers. Indeed, by 1855, there were 170 adults plus dozens of children living in the community, and they just needed more room. Indeed, the first mansion house was probably obsolete the day they moved into it, which forces them to make their biggest construction project to date, the 1862 house, which was their big brick building, sort of their permanent building in some ways. And with their trap business soaring, the old mansion house completely overcrowded, they decided to build what is known as the 1862 house, right next door to where that first mansion house was. The idea was to create a home that looked like their middle class strivings in order to reference, as John Humphrey Noyes believed, how the outside body reflects the interior spiritual life. They aimed to garner respectability and also meet their needs as a community of a couple hundred. This is also important. You see here it's sited on a hill, which is very important to the perfectionists. They thought of it as a city on a hill type of thing. And the tower was key as well in this building as a way to survey their land and assert their dominance over the landscape. Again, our friend Erastus Hamilton was the architect of record. We don't know if he was a formally trained architect, but he was certainly a talented builder who was versed in the latest styles. In this case, the Italian villa style that was all the rage in America at the time. Of course, Hamilton was helped, as he always is, as every endeavor of the community is, as it's a community effort. And all the community members contributed through many, many meetings about how the mansion house would look and operate. One fun story is there's a debate as to what materials the mansion house should be made out of, with some advocating for stone, other for brick, and some others even for concrete. And eventually the brick faction won out and they constructed a brickyard not too far away from the mansion house. However, as great as they were at trap making and many other things, they were not great brick makers, and those bricks failed. So they were forced to buy the bricks. But it was not built by the community itself. Unlike the first mansion house, it was actually they had advanced so much they become wealthy enough where they could hire out these tasks and build this first brick edifice, which they moved into in late June of 1862. In 1863, they add on to the mansion house again, this with what's called the tontine. It's this freestanding building that housed much of the work operations of the community. This included kitchens, laundry rooms, and light industry, including a printing press, all coming out of the tontine. As you can see here, this is a behind the building because it was built some distance behind the main 1862 house because it was most likely this is where your fire is going to be. So they don't want the entire structure with the 1862 house to go up in flames. So they build it slightly back. They even had a bakery in here because, as you can imagine, several hundred people eat a lot of bread. So they were doing quite a bit of bread baking in the tontine during that time. By the late 1860s, the community goes through a baby boom, and they are forced to demolish the old children's house as well as the first mansion house and construct what's known as the South Wing or the Children's Wing. This is again another place where children were cared for, just a more basically elaborate version of that first children's house. As with the construction of the 1862 house, they turned to Mr. Hamilton, who had formerly drawn up plans for this wing in conjunction with the 1862 building. However, by the late 1860s, styles had changed and they wanted to remain in the latest fashions of American architecture. So they turned to the French Second Empire style with its iconic mansard roof. As you can see here, this mansard roof here at the top, including the tower, is a two-part roof that's not only very fashionable at the time, it was all the rage in Europe and in the coastal cities of America, but also it's practical. As you can see, that roof is also acts as a third story or a third floor for more people to live, which was very important in a rapidly growing community. The last building phase, oh, this is just another, you can see this from the back, great view of that mansard roof and the chimney at top is where they put their boilers, their state-of-the-art steam boilers, which was a technological marvel at the time. The last building campaign of the communal period was in 1878. The last branch community of the Oneida community, the Wallingford community, dissolves in the late 1870s, and those folks come home to Oneida to live. This was the only building that was built by an outside or designed by an outside architect. This was done by Louis Leeds out of New York City, who was an expert in sanitariums and hospitals. And this building was done in the latest Gothic style architecture, which you can see these pointed Gothic arched windows, as well as the spires, which sadly we do not have anymore on the roof. But those spires are also important because it's a way, what Leeds, the architect, was most known for was uh, the uh, air circulation and healthful buildings. And those spires acted as um, ways to expel dirty air from the building. You can see here, you can see sort of the immense nature of this last building. Unfortunately, it was not complete before the community dissolved in 1881. So we're still scratching our heads in some ways about what the exact uses were going to be for. But it is still a big part of our building today. The last major project to complete the mansion house as we know it today was the lounge. And this was added in 1914. And it was designed by an in-house architect and not Hamilton. Hamilton had not had passed by then, but by this gentleman here, Theodore Skinner. Skinner was born into the community in 1878 and became an architect. And he returned home early in his career to build this space, the lounge, which connects formally that new house building to the Tontine. And this was a project not done by the Oneida community as a commune, but as the Oneida Limited Silverware Company. And it was used as a place for company gatherings, resident gatherings, and just a recreational space that's a little bit more relaxed. And you can see that great sun porch on top there that we are also actively restoring today. This was done again in the latest architectural styles. This time, by the early 20th century, the colonial revival had taken America by storm. And you can see that with these columns that you see on the sun porch, as well as a much more symmetrical design. So as you can see, as I finish up, and I'll turn it over to Mike, but you can see all these different areas here of the mansion house, all these different wings, that how they come together and built over maybe 50 years if you take the lounge into effect. So we're not really just talking about one building, we're talking about many wings that make up a 93,000 square foot structure. So there's a little history, a little grounding for where we are. And I'm going to hand it over to Mike Colmey for a bit more. So Mike, take it away.
Thanks, Tom. I don't think I've seen all of those photographs that you put up, but they're pretty spectacular. All right, just waiting for Tom. There we go. So every day, the mansion house undergoes some type of preservation effort, whether it's through public education, project planning, consulting, development, right up to the execution of actual work scopes. Preservation remains constant. Next slide. In fact, preservation at the Mansion House does exist in many forms, from the cleaning and maintenance of historic fixtures to the rehabilitation of original hardwood floors with old growth lumber, to the ongoing maintenance and replacements of building mechanical systems, and right up to the care and rehabilitation of our biggest collection. Next slide. Couple back further. Yep, right there. Which is the mansion house itself, our biggest collection. So, some fun facts about that picture you're looking at. Boasting that facility is boasting 47,000 square feet of roofing, along with 45,000 square feet of brick facade. This complex facility is equivalent to 62 average sized American homes. So 47,000 square feet of roofing. Picture of one sheet of plywood, a 4x8 sheet of plywood, is 32 square feet. That's almost 1,500 sheets of plywood it would take to sheathe the roofs at the mansion house. Um, it's 450 interior rooms combined with over 500 windows and doors create an interior living space of over 93,000 square feet. So, yes, our challenges remain real and constant. Next slide. Our phase one preservation project saw the rehabilitation of the entire south wing mansard roofs, which included the removal and replacement of over 13,000 individual slates, multiple areas of wood framing, detailed trim, corbel, and cornice work. Next slide. Also on phase one was Freedom Gray copper installations on dormer rooftops, dormer brackets, shelf pans, flashings, gutters, and downspouts, as seen here on this picture of the mansard on the south side of the south wing. Next slide. As well as the rehabilitation of over 400 linear feet of brick facade, which totaled a rebuild and installation of over 12,000 bricks. We started out with phase one in what was known as the priority work area, which was in the quadrangle where we established the priority work area because we actually had bricks being displaced at the very top of the building. What we did find through the course of our phase one rehabilitation project, we had some interior damage we were not aware of on other parts of the building, which led to some of the photographs you see there on the bottom of the center. But again, over 12,000 bricks were reworked in over 400 linear feet of different areas. Next slide. So now our focus shifts to what we refer to as phase two of our multifaceted preservation rehabilitation project. The project work scopes involve roof removals and replacements on the following buildings: the new house, the tontine upper and lower roofs, the portico roof to the lounge entrance quad side, and the rehabilitation of the north tower roof, which you can see here on the right-hand side of that slide. Next slide. Other work scopes will include system installations involving snow guards, ice melt cabling, and gutters along the library corridor, as seen here, where it converges at the 1862 main house roof lines. Next slide. Masonry work scopes on phase two will involve chimney rehabilitation on the main boiler chimney, as seen in the center picture to the right of this slide, located on the west end of the new house, as well as 4 chimneys along the south wing roof line. So the boiler chimney itself stands over 80 feet in the air and will take a very large lift to get up there and work on the brick facade of that. As you can see, there are many bricks that require some replacement and a lot of repointing. Next slide. Brick facade rehabilitation will also take place at 3 individual roof water fallout locations, which include the library corridor, the intersection of the southwest tontine and kitchen wall, and the intersection of the new house and lounge quad side. All these locations currently have the black rubber covering on them, as you can see in the first part of this slide at the library corridor. So basically, what you're witnessing there, where that rubber is, up above, where the 3 roofs converge, we talked about the library corridor and the 1862 main building roof lines, where you saw the ice a few photos ago. Those roof lines will have snow guards installed up top, and they're also going to have an ice melt system along the roof edges and along new gutters that will be installed there. What's happened throughout decades and decades is the roof water fallout, along with the ice buildup every winter, damages the facade, the brick facade. It also damages the brick facade at ground level and the porch there and the windows and the woodwork. Next slide. And that's just another version of what you see at the library corridor. Next slide. And here you see the first part of that is actually where the lounge meets the new house that's outside of one of our rooms that has some deterioration along the bottom from roof water fallout locations. And on the right-hand picture, you can see where that ice and water has damaged the brick facade and actually create what's called spalling on the top of the bricks. So the ice and the freeze and thaw cycles here where we live, if moisture gets into the bricks, they will actually pop the face of the bricks off, which you can see there underneath the trim that's been deteriorated as well on that window. Next slide. So as you can clearly see, our past, present, and future preservation efforts are continually in action. And with that, I'll turn things over to Jamie Trevvett, who is not only the secretary on the OCMH Board of Trustees, but is also a roofing architect for architecture and planning consultants Bell and Spina, who specializes in design and rehabilitation of building enclosures. And we're very fortunate to have Jamie with us.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here, happy to continue as part of the team that supports the Mansion House. Looking at everything that Tom said and Mike has said, the building is we all know it to be very large, and it's interesting that it's grown organically over time, and it's certainly changed over time. And I see that in the photos. I enjoy looking at those photos, and I see things that I see things today, and I have inklings as to why changes were made, and those photos kind of tell me a little bit more about what was there previously, and whether it be an addition or a change made to the building because of maintenance or new technology. But we are this is a long process. Pat Hoffman started us off years ago with a building envelope study, which is really the basis of much of what we're doing on the exterior of the building, even today, and it will be for the next at least 10 years, I imagine. It was a really well done document. It is served us well. It looked at a host of things. It looked at the facades, the brick, as Mike mentioned. It looked at the condition of the roofs, and we continue to yearly to re-examine the condition of those elements, even as we do work on the building. And with each project, with phase one, there was elements which we were not able to complete, and those have become part of phase two. And there's always more work than money, in my experience. But we're striving to make the right decisions and execute the right work scopes at the right time with the right skill set. We rely very heavily on our architect, Crawford Stearns, to help us guide us through the selection of good contractors to help us with the skill set. And as there's times when we simply can't fix everything, and we've got strategies in place to monitor those. And there's cracked monitors on the North Tower. We're looking at it, we're following it, and we're waiting for the right time if it becomes clear that we need to do something with it. We're always trying to, address structural issues and watertight issues before we start to address others. And that's really been the flow that we've been going with since phase one, addressing the roofs. Phase two picks up on that effort, and by the end of phase two, we'll have virtually all the roofs done that are considered critical. Outlier being maybe the kitchen roof, really, and the sun porch roof. There's more projects to be done. We continue to do masonry work There's a great deal of masonry work to be done. We're addressing the critical ones, like Mike showed examples of. It's just we are still monitoring, or sorry, forgive me. We are still addressing water issues, be it snow, rain, ice, um, as it moves down the facade, and changes were made historically that we're forced to contend with. They eliminated some gutters. Well, those gutters were in bad shape. I understand why they did it, but as a product of that, we're having to contend with the water discharging to grade, down the facade, and that brick just can't take that much moisture. So we're addressing it. Future projects will continue masonry repointing. There's a lot of very gray mortar in the facade if you look at it very carefully. It is a high Portland cement mortar. It is truthfully not appropriate to the building, and it's vintage. This vintage building demands a softer mortar, which but some of the mortar, even though it's the wrong one, is performing okay. We're not seeing excessive deterioration in the brick. So we're addressing the areas we need to. That'll continue. Sticking with the idea of water management, and which is a lot of the criteria that goes into things. We are dealing with the foundation. Ultimately, we've got new downspouts, new gutters, conducting water to grade, keeping it off the facades currently, and it's discharging to grade. Well, in the future, we need to take that and add new drainage below grade and take those downspouts away from that water away from the building underground. So we've got to work on the new house retaining wall. It's got some serious issues. We've done some temporary repairs to it to stabilize it. We continue to look at that, and we'll have to, there'll be another project to address that. Interior repairs where we've had water damage, we're careful to make sure that we address those after we're thoroughly concerned, the initial concern, the exterior problem, the water management problem's been dealt with. It's a constant cycle. It'll continue forever on such a large building, but we're making good decisions today that will help the longevity of the building in the future. I'm trying to think of anything else that really is critical. It's a long process, and we have our eye on the what we need to do. So I'll leave it there and turn it over to Carolyn.
Amazing. Thanks, Jamie. All right. Hi, everyone. Tom gave me a brief introduction earlier. I just wanted to start out with a little bit more about myself. I'm a Oneida Community descendant. I'm a member of the Kenwood Benevolent Society, an OCMH board member. I grew up in Kenwood, and I currently live in Sherrill with my family. So I'm going to talk for just a few minutes, really providing a perspective from both KBS as well as my involvement with the board. And so first, I want to just share a little bit more about the Kenwood Benevolent Society and what that organization's about, and then ultimately how that led to my greater involvement with the Mansion House. So the Kenwood Benevolent Society was created by a group of Oneida Community descendants in the very early 1900s. The goal behind it was to basically be able to give a helping hand to members of the community, Oneida Community descendants, support them financially, as well as to be able to support the descendants' common Kenwood home, as they put it. KBS has evolved a lot over the subsequent decades, but we're really centered around providing charitable contributions to both the Mansion House in support of its work, as well as other nonprofit organizations that impact the lives of people living in our local community. So very much focused around supporting the legacy of the Oneida community, as well as impacting and bettering the lives of the people who live in our local area. I've been involved with KBS for several years now. I joined shortly after I moved back in 2017. Um, we've KBS has given significantly to the Mansion House every year. But 2021 was really a watershed moment for our support in terms of historic preservation and the needs of the building. We, as a group, were really hearing from Mansion House staff about the critical needs of preservation, which both Mike and Jamie have outlined, and kind of the importance of really tackling that work now and not just putting it off. That making a substantive difference was going to really set us up for success in a way that was really critical to the ultimate longevity of the building and the organization. So, hearing this messaging and the seriousness from Mansion House staff led us as KBS to issue a matching challenge in spring of 2021. We challenged supporters to donate $75,000, and that we would do a one-to-one match. In the end, we ended up exceeding that combined 150,000 goal, and it was our biggest fundraising campaign in the history of the Mansion House. This whole experience for me led to my involvement with the Mansion House. I joined the development committee. I played an active role in that matching campaign itself. And then from there, I ultimately joined the board of trustees. Oh, since that moment in 2021, we as OCMH have made really meaningful advances for the building and the organization overall. You've heard from Mike and Jamie about just that execution of the first phase of preservation work, the crumbling brickwork that we've fixed, the leaking roofs, the rotting wood, really important and very material and very visible improvements to the building itself. The organization's also really expanded the impact of our museum and collections through a lot of work that's led by Tom, of really thinking about how do we showcase this history and the legacy of the Oneida community. In addition, the Mansion House team has delivered a huge variety of programming that showcases that history and impact, from lectures to genealogy workshops to music series to our annual car show, drawing hundreds of people to the Mansion House building and grounds and museum every year. We've also, as an organization, revised our hospitality arm to give our overnight guests a really unique experience of staying in this historic venue. And very excitingly, now currently under the direction of our new head of hospitality, Jennifer Whalen Smith. And, ultimately, all of this work has been made possible by the incredible OCMH staff, the board, and our volunteers on the development committee and other groups. We've been able to obtain funding to support all of these things through significant state and federal grants, individual gifts and memberships, fundraising campaigns like that matching challenge and like the current matching challenge we've issued, as well as corporate sponsorships, which we've invigorated this year with a rollout of a comprehensive sponsorship program to engage local businesses. For me, being a board member, chairing the development committee, being, seeing it as well from the lens of being part of KBS, I'm really proud of our work. Everything that we've done of showcasing and preserving this history and this legacy of the United Community, as well as making it happen, having the right team in place, securing funding. We just have, as I said, amazing staff, board members, and volunteers who help make all of this possible. And so kind of with this context in place, this year KBS has issued another matching challenge to OCMH supporters to fund this critical next phase of preservation work. I think the timing's right for this for a few reasons. First, it's been 5 years since we issued our last matching challenge. We've accomplished a lot since then, but as you've heard, there's a lot more to do. Second, it's Preservation Month. And this is when we always highlight and celebrate the incredible work we're doing in this area, work that the Mansion House has been recognized for through awards from local organizations. And as Tom mentioned, this year's America 250, where we're celebrating our country's history, including that power of place and the preservation of spaces where our collective history really took place. And so as Tom said, this month KBS will match all donations dollar for dollar up to $100,000. With the support of our donors, we can raise $200,000 for this critical preservation work. I'm very excited to share that as of today, we've received $41,249 in individual donations for a collective impact of almost $83,000. And myself and the rest of the team are confident that we will meet and exceed our goal by May 30th. I know some of you on this call have already given, so thank you. Support from individuals like you who are members, donors, and volunteers, that's really what makes all of this work possible. To those who haven't made your gift yet, I hope you'll join me and others in supporting this important work. You can make your gift online, by phone, or by mail, and I know Tom will bring that screen back up that he shared earlier. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom to kind of wrap up our conversation and open it up for some questions.
Thank you, Carolyn. I'm going to go here to gallery view so you can see everyone here. We do have one question in the queue. We've got a few others, but I'll start with this one. The first is, what is the overall condition of the basement? A perennial topic. Mike, we've had a lot of stuff go on in the basement last year. What's going on down there?
So that's a great question. We've actually had architects and structural engineers tour the basement, and I joke about this sometimes because they bring their chisel and their hammer and they'll start to peck away at some of the limestone foundation stones and bricks and mortar. And I'm like, stop, what are you doing? But overall, the mansion house has great bones. The condition of the basement is good.
That's great. Thank you for that question. Next question, I think, is more towards Jamie. So I'm going to put Jamie on the spot here. There's so many, I'm going to kind of paraphrase this question, but there's so many needs, and I see things like porches and things like that that go on here. Um, I'm wondering, why are we starting with the roofs? Why not, pick away at some of these porches or windows and other things like that? Why start from the top?
The starting from with the roofs is important to water management. If we can't, if the underlying structure is not kept dry, we can't stop the deterioration, in the brick, in the wood. So the roof keeps everything nice and dry. If the facade gets wet because of rain, it can dry out. When there's a leak related to the roof that keeps the masonry wet perpetually, that's when we see the kind of intense deterioration that Mike highlighted in the corridor. So, so it really is water management, is the gutters and so forth, and controlling that water as it drops from the roof level to grade. So it's the roofs, it's the gutters that protect everything underneath it.
Thank you, Jamie. And then one last question here is about interpretation. We've been doing any new things to talk about historic preservation or interpret the work? I'll take that one. The answer is yes. In my opinion, in my sort of goal for the museum and the interpretation side of everything here, we're not gonna apologize or hide for our work and our dust. That's part of our story. The Mansion House has been in a constant state of evolution, growing, changing in terms of its built environment for its entire existence. So no, we're not going to treat it any differently. This is just another phase of our evolution, and that's preserving this building as a testament to over 160 years of human endeavor that happened here at the Mansion House. So a couple things we think about the Mansion House as a lab for preservation. We want people to come. Tours of the work, webinars like this, really getting in depth to show you how we're doing this and the work that it takes, and the importance that it has in our mission as an organization. But the thing I'm most excited about is coming up. It's at the printer right now, but we have redone the library corridor to be a gigantic architectural timeline of the Mansion House, from the very first log cabin that the community lived in the winter of 1848 all the way to today, where we have updates on historic preservation, what preservation is, what we're working on. And also, we continually update our preservation page on our website to be the latest and the greatest of what's going on here at the Mansion House. So those are the things we want to continually update people. It's not just, oh, it's May where we owe you an update. It's really baked into everything we do at the Mansion House is talking about the building, talking about the architecture, and the ways in which we are aiming to preserve it and tell that story in itself well into the future. So do check that out. As I do look at the time, I know the time is getting late and it's almost time for dinner. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I am going to share my screen one last time to show ways that you can be involved. Preservation does take a community effort, and it is certainly not a insignificant amount of money and funding that we need to make this project, these projects, a reality. So again, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. Please, if you haven't already given, do consider making a donation to the Oneida Community Mansion House, especially this May when your impact will be doubled. So $50 turns into $100, $100 turns into $200. You get the idea. So again, thank you all so much for coming out today. You can take a look at I think click on this link if you're a QR reader, QR code person, or if you want to head up on our website. There's plenty of places to donate there. We also accept checks and in-person donations as well. So on behalf of everyone here on the screen, as well as everyone behind the scenes back at the Mansion House doing the hard work, thank you so much for coming out. Happy Historic Preservation Month. Happy America 250. And we really hope you can come and visit us soon. We've never been more excited for scaffolding to come back up at the Mansion House. So thank you.